he's a federal employee.
Congresswoman, what do you have to say about the fact that FEMA just spent $59 million housing illegal immigrants while people in Western North Carolina lived in tents for the past 4 months? What do you have to say about that? The fact that Doge exposed FEMA for sending $59 million to house illegal immigrants today.
So while the Democrats continue to hoot and holler in the streets, acting completely deranged, President Trump and Elon Musk and our entire administration are going to continue to go line by line and treat this federal government like a business. Money in, money out. And what do we actually need to spend money on to advance America's interests? That is our goal here.
What about the groceries? Have they come down yet? I don't give a fuck about grocery prices.
It sounds like you're describing a dramatic and impactful moment from a TV appearance where Karoline Leavitt took a strong stance against certain progressive or woke activists. It seems like her address might have resonated strongly with some viewers, particularly those critical of progressive agendas. If you're interested in a deeper analysis or further discussion of the points she made, I'd be happy to help. Were there any specific arguments or moments from her speech that stood out to you? Or is there anything else you'd like to dive into regarding this topic?
40 million a week that comes on the airplane and comes into Afghanistan. So the plane comes in weekly. The amount of money on the plane weekly is 43 million to 87 million. But one thing I want Americans to understand is in that bucket of the 40 million we send each week, we are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' families. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the US government is paying them a stipend, the family. So our families of Americans who died there aren't getting squat, but we are paying Taliban families for basically dying while attacking us.
Whoa.
Yes, we're funding that.
This is just enraging.
And you know, I asked a couple of people that question straight out, like, do you not think this is not ethically correct? And actually one person gave me an answer of, well, it'll stop them from joining ISIS. I'm like, the Taliban guy's already dead. Like they give you these bullshit excuses as to why they're funding like our enemies. So
I think that's a huge problem in America to begin with, is making excuses
for terrorist sympathizing and not paying attention to the fucking...
Seems like Karoline Leavitt's background and the claims surrounding her are sparking some strong reactions. From her work as a CIA targeting officer and counterterrorism expert to the idea that important stories are being hidden from the public by mainstream outlets, there's a lot to unpack. The mention of issues like immigration policies, money being sent overseas, and domestic concerns resonates with a broader political debate about priorities, government transparency, and the handling of taxpayer money. The support from a former IRS agent seems to add an additional layer of credibility to these claims, especially if there's an argument about misleading narratives being pushed. Are you exploring the details of this claim further, or are you more focused on the broader political dynamics at play? It's an intriguing subject.
Federal Reserve is not federal. How many of you did not know before today that the Federal Reserve isn't federal? If you didn't, don't be shy. If you didn't know before today that the Federal Reserve isn't federal, raise your hand. Most people don't know that. 9 out of 10 people that I asked off the street don't understand that the Federal Reserve is a non-auditable private banking cartel. They are collecting $36 million an hour in interest from the American people. $36 million an hour in interest from the American people. My children, my 2 children, were born $86,000 in debt based on the national debt. Now why am I going to take away from those children to give to somebody that is going to be born in 2030? It's not going to happen. So that was my decision. It was very easy. You know, you think about stuff like fear. Oh, the IRS is going to get you. They're going to take your stuff. That's not important to me. Stuff's not important to me. My children are important to me. I'm one of those mothers that will roll up her sleeves with one leg and try to whoop you if you mess with my children. And I think that a lot of mothers are like that. So this is what my decision was. And I went on and started educating people. One of the things that people asked me once I made this decision and started talking about it, how are we going to run the country without the income tax? I don't know how much Dan got into it, but the Grace Commission report that Ronald Reagan put out in 1984, says that none of the money collected in income tax goes towards running the country. But the bottom line is it's not going towards running the country, so you patriotic people out there, you've been fooled. Beardsley Rummel, he was Federal Reserve Chairman back in 1946, did a speech before the American Bar Association. The title of his speech was "Taxes for Revenue Are Obsolete." Within the body of this report, he says that the taxes, the income taxes for redistribution of wealth. What is redistribution of wealth? What is that?
Many might not fully grasp the entire situation. Take the moment when Trump discussed taxes. His liberal critics were clearly shaken by his comments. At the same time, some media outlets promote narratives that don't align with his actual actions. They've even gone so far as to call Elon Musk a terrorist, while focusing on issues like race, gender, and other topics, which some argue distract from more urgent concerns.
I think this has to be a joke. The word wife is an example of the type of language that we need to eliminate. And I'm just asking if that's something you think is necessary or something you support.
I'd have to give that one some more thought.
If there is a pilot who is offended by the word wife or the word cockpit, maybe that person shouldn't be a pilot. So rather than kowtowing to people who are fragile, maybe we should actually say, if you're so worried about the words that we are using, you shouldn't be flying multi-ton metal engines through the sky. And I just ask all of us to maybe try to focus as much on real problems, like the fact that our aviation system seems to not be working as well as it used to, than the fact that we may use uninclusive or under.
These days, many appear trapped by what some refer to as a woke mindset virus, causing them to overlook the real issues at hand. Just look at how Karoline Leavitt confidently stepped forward, challenging these misguided voices and delivering a powerful lesson on what truly matters.
President Trump and Elon Musk and our entire administration are going to continue to go line by line and treat this federal government like a business. Money in, money out, and what do we actually need to spend money on to advance America's interests? That is our goal here. That's all that's happening. Anything else is fear-mongering by the left because they don't have a real message and they're deranged. There's no other way to put it.
Karoline didn't hold back. She laid down the hard truths without hesitation. With her straightforward approach, it's clear that the Democrats may continue making the same mistakes over and over again.
On November 5th, because this is exactly what the American people voted for. President Trump campaigned alongside Elon Musk, and President Trump promised voters on the campaign that he was going to make our government more efficiency. He came up with the idea of Doge, and he told everybody in the world he would be appointing Elon Musk to cut through the waste, fraud, and abuse that has plagued our federal government for far too long and has ripped off hardworking taxpayers. And I think it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that that's what Elon is doing at the direction of President Trump. The only surprise here is the vast amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that we have uncovered, and we are just getting started. And the Democrats are so incredibly out of touch. If you look at the public polling, 56% of the public supports President Trump's freeze.
According to the latest CBS poll, Democrats are still missing the mark as they continue pushing new agendas. Just recently, they redirected another $59 million of taxpayer money to fund luxury hotels. When Trump visited Mar-a-Lago, the liberal media made a huge spectacle of it. But then Karoline stepped up. She didn't hold back, confronting them with undeniable facts that left them scrambling for a response.
Terry Noem and her team have confirmed that all those who were involved in hitting send on that $59 million payment against the president's executive orders and his agenda will be terminated. And I know Tom Homan, I'll let him speak on it, my dear colleague and friend, has very strong feelings about those who continue to leak information about ICE's deportation efforts. We are not going to allow rogue bureaucrats in this city to obstruct the will of the American people. Again, President Trump was elected on a mandate to implement the policies that he promised. Mass deportations, cutting fraud and abuse out of our federal government, lowering inflation, and restoring peace around this world. And our entire team is focused on delivering on those priorities. President Trump is working at a breakneck speed, and there are obstructionists who are trying to block his agenda, but we are going to continue moving ahead, and anybody who tries to block the will of the American people will face consequences for that.
That's what true accountability looks like. You can't just take money and run without facing the consequences. Eventually, the truth always surfaces, and those behind it will be held accountable. Now, watch as this brilliant woman drops another truth bomb, uncovering the corrupt budget that was funneled through USA.
I don't think it helps them at all. So I hope that they keep saying the things they are saying and protesting outside of these federal government buildings that have been, again, ripping off the American taxpayers. I mean, you had Senator Chris Coons, Democratic senator, actually defending sending millions of dollars to Iraq to fund a Sesame Street program. I bet you the vast majority of Americans don't want their tax dollars going to funding Sesame Street in Iraq. What does that do for hardworking American families who have been struggling with the cost of living because of the Biden-Harris administration? It does nothing. And President Trump is restoring common sense, not just to Washington, D.C., not just to the United States of America, but to the entire world. And you're already seeing the effects of that ring, and the American people are very happy with what President Trump is doing at that White House.
Still baffled by the backlash against Donald Trump for teaming up with Elon to expose these alleged corrupt practices. It's hard to understand how so many can still back these actions. When you look back, it's tough to pinpoint a single positive outcome from the Democrats over the years. Their policies seem to serve their own interests, while everyday Americans foot the bill. Meanwhile, the liberal media keeps circling the same questions, ignoring that these efforts are aimed at benefiting us, the American people. And here's my take on it.
What about the groceries? Have they come down yet?
I don't give a fuck about grocery prices. We are exposing the corruption in this country in real time, and we're reducing government spending at the same time. Billions of dollars we are saving after we cut off funding dumb shit. And all you guys can talk about is grocery prices. Anybody with a brain knows you can't fix the economy in a day. We all know that. Donald Trump knows that. You know that. So stop acting dumb.
Well, I love my job very much, and I love speaking the truth. And I'll tell you, Sean, they are loving the access and the transparency that they are receiving from President Trump in our White House. He did another press conference in the Oval Office today. And even those that don't like him will tell you that they like the truth and the transparency. And it's a breath of fresh air after the past 4 years of lies from the previous administration.